It's about time we talked about potentially one of the most complicated decks in Master Duel, and that is the Ritual Beasts. Now, the Ritual Beasts are famed for a multitude of things. One of the things it's most famous for are being one of the most convoluted decks in Master Duel's history, in Yu-Gi-Oh's history as a whole, and it certainly held up to that reputation to the point where we actually had to have a dedicated live stream, 4 hours of us playing nothing but Ritual Beasts in order to become somewhat competent at playing the deck. And to be fair, it worked, and it was possibly one of the most enjoyable streams that I've ever played in, and playing this deck is extremely fun. It feels like playing just peak Yu-Gi-Oh! I would definitely recommend this to anyone who has the time to sit down and learn. Now, in this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you just essentially, I want to show off just one main sort of combo, and that's going to be starting off with the Hawk. Now, there's a ton, and I mean a ton, of 2-card combinations, of like 1 card under X condition combinations, of filler spots with like Sark or what do you, right? Tons and tons and tons of sort of other things to consider when it comes to playing a hand. It is most decks are like that, to be fair, but this deck more than even most of those. So if you want, if we can sort of see any level of support or desire, I can do a super detailed, like massive breakdown of Ritual Beasts. I can go over all the different 1-card potential combinations, all the 2-card combos, all of the optional cards you can play, what you should cut, what you should not, anything like that. I'll do that in another video. This, I wanted to be sort of like a sort of beginner injection into playing Ritual Beast for people. So I'm going to cover off the Hawk combo because many of the combos follow the same principles. So once you learn the principle of Ritual Beast, you kind of understand how the different combos work and how they bleed into one another, which is how we eventually got it. On that 4-hour live stream, we went from knowing absolutely nothing to kind of getting it. By the end of it, we were pretty competent. We were making plays, putting up boards consistently, and it was a ton of fun. I would recommend, of course, if you want to watch that learning and decision-making process and watch these games live, watching the live stream back, or potentially subscribing to catch any future live streams that we have in regards to this deck. Because I will, if people want a detailed breakdown, I will make a second video on it. I don't mind. But so we're gonna cover off that combo. I'm gonna show a few replays of the deck in action, showing kind of good and bad scenarios, and I'm gonna do a card for card deck profile on not only the cards we're playing, but also certain changes you can make, certain cards you should consider, certain cards you shouldn't consider, as well as a few other options. So of course, stick around for that as well. Should be a nice and simple one. If you're new, of course, make sure you like and subscribe, and if you want to catch our live streams, make sure you're following us down on Twitch, which is where our live streams are going to be going at the moment. So if you want to catch us live, make sure you're following on Twitch and that you're a part of the Discord to get notifications. Let's get into the combo. Okay, so with a hand like this, of course, you've got a ton of plays, and we're not going to worry about all of these other cards. We will be summoning the Infernal Banshee later in the combo. We'll just pretend that we search for this card, whatever. So we're going to be focusing on the 1-card Hawk combo here. Now, the biggest task that many people have when it comes to playing Ritual Beast is that they've never had to play a deck that has been as resource management intensive as Ritual Beast is. Now, many decks manage resources, right? But most people's experience of managing resources is maybe a graveyard loop, maybe a banishment loop of a certain card midway through their combo, whereas Ritual Beast's entire shtick is making sure you have the right cards banished at the right time under the right conditions to make sure that they can come back. And if you manage that loop well, you can repeatedly search your deck for cards, you can repeatedly summon cards from banished pile out the field, and the deck becomes quite formidable. Absolutely. So the main things that you need to bear in mind is that each Ritual Beast monster can only be special summoned once per turn. That, and we're going to be focusing on looping our Ulti Hawk as many times as possible. And what I mean by looping the Ulti Hawk, so the way this card works, it has 2 effects. Number 1, you will target 2 of your banished Ritual Beast cards that are banished, you return into the graveyard, and then you get to search your deck for a card. Its second effect allows you to target 2 banished Ritual Beast monsters, a Tamer and a beast, and you special summon those back to your field by returning this guy back to the extra deck. So the way you normally want this to go is you want to have 3 cards banished, right? You want to target 2 of them, one of them that can be special summoned, and one of them that maybe can't. Then you're going to chain the second effect to target the summonable card you just targeted and a third Ritual Beast target, either a tamer or non-tamer, depending on what you targeted the first time. You summon these 2. Your first target goes to the graveyard, and because one of the targets went to the grave, you still get your search. That's how the Ulti Hawk works, and that is really the most complicated part of this. The rest of the deck outside of the Ulti Hawk does kind of just function like Combo City. So once you get that down, that is going to essentially just formulate much of your thinking and much of your combos, okay? So I wanted to cover that briefly before we even get into the combos, so you understand why we're looking to use this card as often as we can. So we're going to start off with normal summoning the Spiritual Beast Hawk. We're going to activate its effect. Essentially, this is going to allow us to banish a Spiritual Beast from our deck. We're going to be banishing the new Laura. You may refer to this card as New Laura because we already had a Laura here. So this one is New Laura. We're going to banish this. Her effect is going to activate to allow us to special summon a Ritual Beast monster from deck. So now we're going to summon the old Laura. Why are we summoning old Laura? Well, because we need a tamer. Which one specifically doesn't matter. However, we're going to be utilizing the effects of Wen and Elder later in the combo. So Lara is basically just the only tamer that isn't really all that important just yet. So we're going to summon Lara. Lara now for the rest of this turn cannot be special summoned. That is very important to note. Cannot be special summoned. So we're going to use these 2 now, and we're going to be going into the Ulti Hawk. So you'll notice in our banish pile, we have a Ritual Beast that cannot be special summoned, a Spiritual Beast that can, and a Ritual Beast Tamer that can. We're going to use that. So now we're going to go the Ulti Hawk. We're going to target the Hawk, which can be special summoned, and the Lara, which cannot be special summoned. And now we're going to chain our second Hawk effect, targeting the 2 monsters that can be summoned, including one of the ones we targeted off the first effect. So what happens now is Ulti Hawk will summon the original Hawk, as well as the new Lara, and old Lara goes to grave, and we search our deck for a card. That is the loop. Now, what do we search for here? We normally search for Ritual Beast Tamer Wen. So we grab Ritual Beast Tamer Wen, so we do. And now we're going to activate Ritual Beast Tamer Hawk's effect again. So when normal summoned, we'll target a banished Ritual Beast monster and special summon it. So what we're going to do is we're going to banish a target for Wen. We're going to banish the Ritual Beast Rampengu. Rampengu is one of your better beasts as well. So now that we've got these 2, we're going to use these 2 in a link summon for our Ulti, whatever this card's name is. The link to the Hawk. So we bring this out. Ulti Falcos, that's what I call it. So Ulti Falcos comes out. Ulti Falcos then will essentially allow you to banish a Ritual Beast monster from your graveyard to conduct an additional normal summon. So we're going to banish something, essentially that's just going to serve as a target. So we're going to banish a Hawk. You do want to ideally keep Hawk banished as often as you can, because it's nice to be able to loop it off of our Link 4, which we'll get to later in the combo. So Hawk's a nice one to have banished. And the new Lara is a nice one to have in graveyard, because it does have an in graveyard effect. So if you're wondering what to banish, make sure you have a banished Hawk and try to keep Lara in grave. Right. So now we're going to normal summon the Wen. I already feel like this is too much information. We're going to activate the Wen's effect to bring back the Rampengu. Rampengu then going to special summon out. Cannot be special summoned for the rest of the turn. Gotta remember that. Now we're going to activate the Rampengu's effect, which is going to allow us to send a Ritual Beast. We banish a Ritual Beast, from our extra deck. So we're going to banish our Ulti Gaia Pelio because it's a psychic. And then we mill a Ritual Beast of the same typing. We're going to mill our Spiritual Beast Tamer Window. So we're going to send the Window. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go for the Hawk again. We're going to banish these 2 from our field to summon out the Hawk. And now we're going to be going for the Ulti Knock. We're going to banish the Window, as well as any of these guys, it doesn't really matter which. We're going to banish Old Lara. We're going to special summon out this guy, the ulti knock. So essentially all you're really doing that for is to put Winda in your banish pile. So now we again have a spiritual beast that can be special summoned, a ritual beast. So the thing that makes Winda and new Lara so special is their spiritual beast tamers, which means their name contains both ritual beast tamer and spiritual beast. That's what makes them so special. So now we have Winda banished, which is a spiritual beast that can be special summoned, and we have ritual beast tamer Wen, which can be special summoned. So we're going to use the effect of the ulti Canahawk. We're going to target two. Again, we're going to include Winda or any one of them that can be special summoned, just not both of them. So we're going to target the Winda, and we're going to target, say, the Rampingu. It doesn't really matter that much. Then we're going to chain the second effect of the Canahawk. We're going to target the Winda, and we're going to target the Wen. That's going to special summon both out to the field. So I'm going to bring them out. The only real thing to note when it comes to which one is important is just try to keep an eye on levels. You do want to have at least 2 level 4s on your end board by the end of it, which we'll get to in a minute. Now we're going to be adding a card from deck to hand. We're going to add the Ritual Beast Tamer Elder. So we're going to grab Elder this time. And this is where we're going to go into our Link 4. So now we're going to use our Ulti Falcos. We're going to use the Wen, and we're going to use the Ulti Drago. And we're going to go into the Ulti Riru. Riru, I think his name is? Rirutari. So now we can activate the Rirutari. We're going to target the Canahawk, which will add it back to our hand and then allow us to immediately conduct an additional normal summon. We're now going to normal summon the Ritual Beast Elder that we added to our hand, because Elder, when summoned, gives us another normal summon, so we get to normal summon the Canahawk as well. So now we'll activate the Canahawk. We're going to banish from our deck the last beast that can be special summoned, which is going to be the Spiritual Beast Apelio. This is the last one that can still be special summoned, which is why we're banishing it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Canahawk again. We're going to banish the Elder and the Canahawk. We're going to go into the Ulti Canahawk. We're going to activate the first effect, right? Remember, we're going to target one that can be special summoned and one that cannot. We're going to target, say, the Apelio and the Lara, right? Doesn't really matter which. Then we're going to chain the second effect, and we're going to target the Apelio and the Elder. So again, just keeping track, making sure you're special summoning as many monsters back as you possibly can, making sure you always have an active pair that you can special summon. And now we get to search our deck for our trap card, the Ritual Beast Steeds, which will act as additional interruption during our opponent's turn. So this is one of our end board pieces right here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go into our Infernal Flame Banshee using our 2 level 4s. Beautiful. The Banshee here would normally detach one to grab us the Nemesis flag. We already have the Nemesis flag, so just pretend that she searched for it, right? Now we're going to activate the effect of Nemesis flag to shuffle back. We're going to shuffle back the Ulti Gaia Pelio to recur an extra deck resource for later. Now we're going to summon the Nemesis flag. Jesus. We're going to activate the Nemesis flag. We're going to search our deck for a Nemesis monster. So normally you can search for Protoss or you can search for Corridor. It really sort of depends on what you're after. A very popular choice at the moment is Protoss because of Tempai. So we'll do that. Just know that you could choose between this and Colossus. Colossus technically has a higher generic endboard strength. It counters more decks in a more consistent manner. But there's so much fire in Master Duel right now that you're really not missing out on much by just going for Protoss Call Fire. So it's definitely still a very safe play. Now we're going to be going Elder and Banshee into Masquerena. Right here. And that's basically just to make sure you have enough attributes engraved for your Protoss. So now we can banish the Banshee. We can banish a Light, which will be the Ulti Drago. Because you want to keep Lara. Lara is technically a light, so you could use it, but you do want to keep that engraved. And now we're also going to banish, it doesn't really matter. The Apelio is a nice one to have banished for grind game, because you can loop it a little bit easier. So it is nice to have the Apelio in there, but it doesn't really matter all that much. And here you have it. So you can do two things here. You can go for a Apo using IP and your Infernal Flame Banshee and your flag, and then Protoss call Dark if you think that your opponent's going to be playing a Dark deck. Or you could simply call Fire right now and lock your opponent out of playing Tenpai and the what would you call it? Tenpai and Snake Eye, or Fire Kings, or Infernoids, or Infernobles, or any of those sort of big fire decks that are still running around right now. So this will effectively be an FTK against all of those guys. And then we have our steeds as well. So this import basically it equates to a fire floodgate. We have a quick play banish off of the Ulti Riritaru. We have 2 banishes off of the IP Masquerena into SP, so 1 on summon and 1 in reaction, so 1, 2, 3. We also have a pop 1 or 2 on our steeds, so that's at least 4 active interruptions plus a huge floodgate in the form of Protoss, and that's all off of a singular card in hand, right? So you can still have hand traps, you can have extenders, ways to play for interruption. So for example, Lara and Elder being in hand at the beginning of turn are fantastic methods of playing free interruption. So your hand usually isn't really all that vulnerable to hand traps, unless if they hit you with 2 hand traps, then you start struggling a little bit. 3, and usually it's turnover. But you can normally play through 1 hand trap pretty consistently. So yeah, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much the deck. And once you get that, you'll notice the loops were constructed very, very meticulously. How we were always making sure to take deliberate steps to make sure we're banishing the right cards, managing our resources, returning the right cards, and targeting the right cards off the Ulti Canahawk. And how the Ulti Canahawk really is kind of the heart of this combo. Being able to effectively loop that card is kind of what makes Ritual Beast good. So I would definitely learn how to manage that to an extent. But once you get it, you get it. This deck really isn't too intimidating. And by the end of our stream, we were even completing our turns with a decent amount of time left on the clock. Just don't be afraid to time out with this deck. You will time out while you're still learning it. Yeah, I feel like there's more I need to talk about. I feel like there's more I need to explain and discuss. If I were to try and break down all of Ritual Beast to you right now, it would take hours, right? And the reason it would take so long is because there's no amount of information I can tell you that's going to make you a good Ritual Beast player. You need to pick up the deck, and you need to go into ranked, and you need to test it out, try it, lose your games to learn your interactions, and then eventually you'll get it, right? Like I said, it took us 4 hours on live stream to become a solid Ritual Beast player, not a master, not top tier, not perfect, but we became a pretty solid Ritual Beast player in a span of 4 hours. I would imagine with even more practice. Honestly, I've been playing the deck still. We're pretty good at it now, if I'm being honest. Maybe a little bit cocky of me to say it, but I think we're pretty good Ritual Beast players at this stage. So what I'm saying is practice. So I'm going to show off a few replays here. I'm going to talk through the replays and the games and the hands, the interruptions. And then I'll go through the deck profile at the end of this card for card. Again, if you want to see the actual games themselves on our learning and thought process, do watch our live stream. But anyways, let's get into the actual replays. Alrighty, getting into our first replay. Going first, we're going to start off with the Canahawk. We're going to banish the Lara. Lara going to summon out the Elder here. We already had Lara in hand, which did make this a little bit more awkward, so you're going to get to see how we're playing around certain things. We do have some phenomenal extenders in the form of E-Telly. Gold Sark's not really an extender per se, more so a way to plug a hole in your combo. If you need a particular card banished and you just don't have it. We're going to go Canahawk to banish the Rimpigu. Now we're going to link into the Ulti Falcos. You'll see again, a lot of these plays are very similar. Banish the Canahawk, Wing gonna bring back the Rimpigu. Rimpigu gonna activate its effect. We're gonna mill the Winda, banishing the Gaipilio. We're gonna banish the 2 from the graveyard to go into the Ulti Drago. Now we're gonna go Ulti Canahawk, target the 2, activate its second effect, summon the 2, and again, just looping your resources as effectively as you possibly can. So we're gonna keep it nice and simple. We're gonna grab Elder from our deck. We haven't normal summoned Elder, which, you know, we didn't need to search for him. But we didn't really have a ton of other cards worth searching, if I'm being perfectly honest. We already had pretty much everything. We're going to start by additionally normal summoning the Elder, then getting an additional normal summon for the Canahawk. We're going to banish a card, activating the Lara. We're going to summon the Lara from the hand. Lara then going to bring back the Ulti Falcos. We're going to go into the ulti counter hug here. Ulti counter hug going to target 2, as well as then using its second effect to target another 2. And again, so this combo's actually got a slightly higher ceiling because we already had Lara in hand, right? So we can actually add to the combo a little bit. Grabbing Steeds, returning the Winda back to the grave. We're not going to use R2 to go into the Infernal Flame Banshee as we normally would. We're going to detach a material off of the Banshee for the Nemesis Flag. Nemesis Flag then going to activate, shuffling back the Gaia-Pilio to summon itself, activating its own effect to grab us the Protoss. Now we're going to go a Link 4 into Apollousa on top of everything else, summoning the Protoss. Banshee then going to be activating and to summon itself back to the field. We're going to go Link 2 into IP Masquerena, and then we're going to go Protoss Call Fire. So this is effectively the same board, except we also have a free material Apollousa because we had any extender. We're going to use E-Tele during our opponent's turn, and this is a cool thing about E-Tele. You can either use it as an extender, or if you use it during your opponent's turn, you can summon Ghost Ogre and Snow Wrap into the field, who is not only a hand trap, but its effect can be used while it's on the field. So you can send it from hand or field to the graveyard to use its effect. So it's effectively just Ghost Ogre, which is awesome. They're going to go Stratos. Stratos activating its effect. They're going to grab the Vision Hero Ferris. Ferris then, this deck, of course, not struggling to our Fire Lock at all, so Protoss Call Fire, unfortunately, not really stopping our opponent, which is why Colossus is probably a better shout in a wider range of situations. They're going to go Mali. At this stage, his Stratos is big enough to swing over my Apo, so I'm kind of looking at my negates, like if I don't use them, I might lose them. So we're going to start negating some key cards. We're going to negate the Mali, as well as the additional Stratos. I don't see how, with a Ferris in hand and Mali negated, he gets from 2 Stratos into anything, but that is going to be the Verte. We're going to go for IP Masquerena now. We're going to link 2 off into the SP. Little Knight then going to activate its effect. We're going to banish the Verte before it can do anything, setting a card. We do lose our Ogre, but that's a-okay. It more than did its job. Ulti, Raritari going to grab back the Lara. Lara then on normal summon going to grab us a monster from the grave, going to bring back the Cannahawk, and we restart the loops, and GG's. That's pretty much it, honestly. Again, showing off virtually card for card the combo that you saw before. Of course, a couple of changes to just for the Lara in hand, and those are the changes that will be the toughest to make as you're learning the deck. Like, okay, I have this card in hand already. Does that help me? Does that hinder? Like, it took me a while for me to realize that if I have Elder in hand, I just summon Elder first, right? So even something as simple as that can be a little bit daunting to learn and try and test. So by all means, don't be afraid to get things wrong or to play around and find out. But yeah, solid first game. Let's get into game 2. Already getting into our second game, going second this time. Standby Phase Shifter, as well as Chain Maxi, has to be one of the most degenerate things you can do to a human being. And again, that's just one of the strengths of this deck, is that we can play into and through Shifter. Now, they're playing Dogmatica, which is an interesting deck because it does not do well under Shifter. So that does put us at an advantage, but we didn't draw into any of the known starters, right? So now we're going to have to try something different. You're going to see what we can do with just Rampengu. That's right, I included this replay because this guy was playing some fuck shit. He plays the Buster Blader, which really threw me off and really made this game stick out. Again, we played all of these games live from our live stream, so do check that out. We're going to go Ulti Cannahawk here, of course. Lara and the Rampengu then going to be targeted off of the Cannahawk. He's going to try and meet us with the Fleur de Lis. Fleur de Lis, of course, doesn't target when in negate, so he's gonna, whenever he's summoned, not have a decent target for his negate. He can negate Rampengu, I guess, but I believe he chooses Lara? He does. He chooses Lara for some reason. Even then, honestly, Rampengu has kind of served its purpose. So it's just going to banish an additional win, which basically just gives us an extra target, but it's nothing really of any significance. We're going to banish Lara to get an additional normal summon on the Elder. Elder and Rampengu then going to go into the Ulti Cannahawk one more time. Ulti Cannahawk targeting Lara and Winda. Then it's going to target Winda and Elder, so that we can summon the Winda and the Elder, returning Lara back to the graveyard to use its graveyard protection effect if and or when necessary. We're going to grab the Cannahawk from the deck. Now we're going to use the Elder normal summon for the Cannahawk. We're going to banish the Apelio. Now we're going to go into the ulti Cannahawk one more time. We've already got Steeds in hand as well, so we're kind of stacked a little bit, to be honest. We're going to return the ulti Cannahawk to summon back the Wen and the Apelio, so they're going to go out to the field. Remember, this is all under Shifter. We're going to turn Cannahawk back to the graveyard. We're going to go Apelio here. Apelio banishing the Cannahawk again to boost up our field, so our Riritaru is large enough to get past his monsters. We're going to grab the Apelio back from the banish pile, normal summoning it. Now we're going to go into the Infernal Flame Banshee. Banshee then activating, detaching material, going to grab us the Nemesis Flag. Nemesis Flag then going to return the Ulti Riritaru from our banish pile back to the extra deck, using its effect to grab us the Protoss. Protoss now going to banish 3 attributes from our graveyard to summon itself. Look at that, 3 attributes in grave, even through Shifter, is pretty damn impressive. I don't believe we have lethal here, but at the very least, we're putting our opponent in a position where they cannot special summon light monsters, and we have a Riritaru on our field to provide an additional banish if needed. I didn't set Steeds, which was just a stupid mistake. I don't know why I didn't do that. Also, I just wanted to be noted, our graveyard is empty. We can use Shifter again, which is also pretty funny. I should have used it in draw phase, that was my bad. We're going to go Magnemite here. Magnemite's going to banish the Shifter from our graveyard, summoning itself out to the field, going to use its effect so that during the end phase it gets to grab something. Now they're going to go Ecclesia into the Chaos Angel. That is a light Dark Chaos Angel, going to banish our Riritaru. Damn, this suddenly got really bad. We lost our Protoss and our Riritaru. All we've got on field is a Flame Banshee and a Nemesis Flag. What exactly do we do from this position? It's not looking good. So now we're going to top deck into Infinite Impermanence. We're going to go Flag. Flag's going to search our deck for Corridor, our Nemesis monster. We're going to go Nemesis to return the Protoss to be searched later if needed. We're going to normal summon the Tamer. We're going to go into IP Masquerena. Now that's going to trigger the Tamer because she got banished, as well as the Banshee getting banished. Remember, we're under Shifter, so these cards getting banished actually provides them additional utility. Special summoning out the Cannahawk. Now we're going to go into another Ulti Riritaru. Ulti Riritaru going to activate, grabbing the Wen back to hand so we can normal summon the Wen, activating its effect to special summon our other Ulti Riritaru from our banish pile. Now we're going to tribute off the Corridor. We're going to go into Colossus, and at this stage we have Steeds, we have Imperm, we have SP Little Knight. I know that of course the SP Little Knight cannot deal with the Chaos Angel, and while the Chaos Angel is still on the field, what we have essentially done is we set up our board so that it cannot possibly pose a problem to us. We have Colossus, which is going to prevent any potential follow-up. The Drissworm is very annoying, so we decide at this stage we're going to take a preemptive stance. We're going to get rid of that Drissworm into the battle phase. Ritual Beast Steed's going to pop at the Chaos Angel. 2 cards left in hand. They're going to normal summon the Fallen of Albaz, discarding a card, attempting the fusion summon. We're going to go SP Little Knight to remove the Fallen of Albaz from his field, meaning he has no valid targets for fusion summon, and that is game. Started off like a bit of a, okay, right, Dogmatic, a Buster Blader, all right, cool deck, but it shouldn't really be that much of an issue. And then it turned into, shit, that's a Chaos Angel. What do we do about that? And then I showed you what we do about that. So that shows some of the really cool plays with an Under Shifter. Not only can you play Under Shifter, a lot of the decks that play Shifter kind of play it because it hurts them less than it hurts their opponent, right? Which is a bad reason to play a card, but at the end of the day, if it wins you a game, it wins you a game, right? But this deck plays Shifter because we can actually not only abuse it, we can also make the second one live if we need to. So it being banished enables new lines compared to what we would normally do. It means that Lara is much easier to trigger. It means that the Infernal Banshee being used as link material, like you saw, I can open up whole new routes as well. So there's quite a lot to consider whenever you're talking about Shifter, and it kind of maybe deserves its own section. Maybe I should talk about that if we do an in-depth guide on this deck. But it is very, very interesting how it interacts with a lot of the cards in your deck. And it wouldn't be a ranked video without at least one 10-pie matchup. We're going to go Ritual Beast Inheritance. Inheritance allows us to reveal the Apelio. Realistically, I kind of already have Cannahawk, so I'm just doing this to bait out potential Ash Blossom or whatever. Again, at this stage, I don't know that he's playing 10-pie, but he's playing 10-pie. So we're going to banish, of course, our card. We're going to summon out the Rimpingu. We're going to banish the ulti Cannahawk. The ulti guy Apelio. Ulti Canahawk going to target 2 to return back to Grave, going to target an additional 2 to special summon. So you'll notice here, let me just double check to make sure I'm right. No, the loop was the same as before, apologies. So something I was going to say is that you really don't want to target the same 2 cards for both of its effects. You need to send at least one of the cards to the graveyard, and Laura being sent back to Grave is a fantastic one. We do also have Paleo and Winda already in Grave, which presents a bit of a unique opportunity because we have a lot of varying resources available to us already. So we're going to use Wind to grab back new Laura, the Ulti Canahawk going to target 2. Now we're going to target another 2. We're going to target the Wind and the Winda, which can be special summoned, and the new Laura and Wind, which new Laura cannot be special summoned. So these 2 come out the field. Laura goes back to Grave, and we grab Steeds. We're going to banish 2 from Grave to go into the Ulti Drago. Now we're going to use our Monster Share to go into a Link 4. All of this is very much the same as the previous games, and it is quite rigid in that way that once you understand how the cards work, the deck is remarkably consistent, I would say. I think the deck is very, very consistent. So we're going to go into the Infernal Flame Banshee here. Flame Banshee going to detach a card to grab us the Nemesis Flag. Nemesis Flag returning the Ulti Gaia Paleo to our extra deck. Grabbing the Protoss off the flag, we're going to go Link 2 into the IP Mask Arena. I'm pretty sure we do Protoss Call Fire here, and he just can't play the game. I'm fairly certain. Yeah, we call Fire, set a card, and we pass turn. And we have Ogre and Ash in hand as well, which is pretty fucking solid. Yeah, he goes Raigeki, which hella sucks. Oh yes, that's right. I wanted to mention this matchup specifically because I made a mistake. I probably should not have used IP Mask Arena here. I guess IP plus Protoss into SP would have been a fine play, but I do something stupid. And I used the Ulti Riritaru to go into SP. And the reason that it's stupid is because, well, Ulti Riritaru wouldn't have been destroyable by card effects. And the reason being is we have new Laura in our graveyard. New Laura has an effect in Grave to where if a Ritual Beast card you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from field or graveyard instead, which then of course would also trigger its other effect to say when this card is banished you can special summon a Ritual Beast. So not only did we cost ourselves our Ulti Riritaru for 0 reason, we actually cost ourselves additional interruption on top of that because we would have had more Ritual Beasts on field, which would have meant more names for Steeds. So huge misplay from me, and I wanted to sort of throw that out there. Protoss, of course, cannot be destroyed by card effects, so that's not a massive concern. They're going to go triple tactic talent here to draw 2 additional cards. That's a-okay. I don't think he can draw a single card that's going to stop us, thanks to Protoss. So he finally passes turn, and that's fine by me. Now we've got the Nemesis Corridor in hand. Nemesis Corridor going to activate to return the Link 2 back to our extra deck. He goes for Max C. I ash it because I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, you're not getting another turn. I'm going to stop you from getting another turn as best I can. So we're going to ash that. We're going to try and put on the pressure. Now we're going to go Corridor. Corridor going to shuffle back the Ulti Falcos. Now we're going to go into the Thunder Dragon Colossus, which will prevent the adding of cards. We're going to go into the Ulti Drago as well. Tamer summoning Canahawk, and that would be lethal damage. But our opponent goes for Droplet. They could realistically have like dropped their whole hand and reduced our attack points to the point where we weren't going to kill them that turn. What they would not have been able to do is discard enough cards to, keep enough advantage to guarantee that they would have been able to actually play the game. So they could definitely have survived that turn using that Droplet, but they just didn't want to, basically. They just didn't think they were going to be able to drop as many cards as they needed while also keeping enough cards to actually win. I wanted to show this replay off, not only because Protoss countering Tempai, right? Get fucked Tempai, but also because of the new Lara effect. I'm pointing out how, again, it's so easy to make mistakes and to forget about certain key things in interaction. That new Lara effect is very, very good. Try to abuse it when you can. I obviously fucked it up in this game, but do use that whenever you see an opportunity to do so. You can tell that this is a late night recording with how often I'm messing up a lot of these names, but ultimately this is our list. Now try saying half of these extra deck names 5 times fast and watch how quickly demons show up on your room. So this is the list. So what effectively are we looking at? Ritual Beast. First of all, I'm going to remove the non-engine cards. We got triple Maxi, of course. We got double Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is especially useful in this deck. Not only is it great in this format, full stop, But it's also good because you do play E-Tele in-engine, and as I described in one of the replays, E-Tele, if you don't use it as an extender, you can instead use it as an interruption by summoning Ghost Ogre during your opponent's turn. So Ghost Ogre, definitely at least one copy is mandatory. More copies is good because it's a really good card right now, but, you know, at least one copy is mandatory. Triple Ash Blossom, we've got the Double Shifter, which, while very powerful in this deck, is still technically non-engine. Shifter is incredible, though, so if you're not playing it, you're playing it wrong. We got double Cult By, single Crossout, a double Imperm, and Gold Sark is Gold Sark's a weird one. I personally really like Gold Sark because it kind of lets you... What Gold Sark does in this list, as you can tell from like sort of the gameplay and the combo guide, it's very important that you have specific cards banished at specific times. So Gold Sark acts as a semi-starter because it allows you to banish Lara directly from deck. So for example, if I were to normal summon Canahawk and I get impermed or whatever happens and my Canahawk gets negated, well, Gold Sark fills that hole, right? If I'm trying to play through and I mess up and I don't have a compatible pair of, like, if I don't have 3 cards, appropriate targets for my Ulti Canahawk loop, right? If I don't have 2 to target the return and 1 of those and an additional target to summon, if I don't have the right setup for my Canahawk, Gold Sark can banish a card to get me the additional card that I'm missing, right? And it not being once per turn means that you can't, like, break on 2 copies of it now that it's legal at 2. So I do think Gold Sark is definitely worth playing. If you don't have Gold Sark and you are sort of more on the budget, say, because I appreciate this deck isn't super cheap to begin with. It's not terribly expensive, but it's not the cheapest deck in the world. If you really want to save credits where possible, you can drop the Sark. Just know that you're missing out a little bit, for sure. This is the list. So how does the deck work? The deck is basically split between Spiritual Beasts and Ritual Beast Tamers. Note that Spiritual Beast has the words Ritual Beast in its text. So anything that refers to a Ritual Beast includes Spiritual Beasts because it is in the name. It took me a minute to realize that. But there are also 2 exceptions to that rule. We have Spiritual Beast Tamer Winda and Spiritual Beast Tamer Lara. Their names are exceptionally useful because they fit the role of both Beast and Tamer, which is very good. Most of them, though, are either a Ritual Beast Tamer or a Spiritual Beast. So that's it. And how this works is you have these fusion monsters that are essentially a pairing of a Tamer and a Beast, right? They all kind of work the same way. They are summoned via contact fusion by banishing from your field appropriate materials. All of your Ritual Beast monsters can only be special summoned once per turn. Many of the cards grant you additional normal summon, as well as having effects that activate on normal summon. So your deck is about effectively looping your special summon so that you can harness as many normal summons as you possibly can. Another important thing to note is that your Ritual Beast effects, which are the ones that activate on summon to generate resources or to provide additional buffs, such as Rampingu's Mill and Canahawk's Banish from deck and Apelio's attack boost, are not hard once per turns. They're all soft once per turns, so you can loop those. All of the normal summon effects of the Tamers are also not once per turn, except for Elder. Elder is once per turn, but you know, if you can normal summon Wen additional times, if you can normal summon Lara additional times, you can absolutely use these effects multiple times per turn. It's not going to happen, but you can. But Elders is a sort of once per turn. So that's effectively the idea behind the deck. So in terms of our ratios, we're playing 1 of the old Lara. We're playing 3 of the new Lara. 3 new Lara is... It's very good because she's a great card to have in hand. Now, hands that you play that rely on Lara for anything more than being an extender for interruption are usually very awkward hands to play out. She's not like a great card to have in hand, except in situations where you get interrupted, and then she's fantastic, right? But she's not like a starter. She doesn't really enable startering very well. So it's not like 3 of her because she's a starter, but she does definitely enable some hands that would otherwise be bad, and definitely helps you play through certain types of interruption if you happen to get fucked up. So free Laura, I would say, is definitely the way to go. I was very tempted to cut her down a little bit, but the more you play it, the more you kind of see why you have her at free. Free Elder, again, one of your best normal summons. He's a great, not necessarily starter, of course he's not a starter at all, right? But he's a phenomenal extender, and again, helps you play through a lot of interruption. What is worth noting, this guy's effect on normal summon, after you normal summon this card, you gain an additional normal summon for the duration of this turn. What's worth noting is that is not an activated or continuous effect. That is simply a condition. You as a player gain an additional normal summon after you normal summon this card. If they were to imperm him on summon, if they were to do anything to this man other than a continuous field to check negate like a skill drain, you will gain that additional summon, even if they were to attempt to negate or remove him afterwards. So if your opponent imperms Elder, if your opponent veilers Elder, if they do something to Elder, you can just wave and laugh, because they just wasted that interruption. It does nothing. Skill drain and field check based interruptions will still negate you, so long as they were face up before your normal summon of Elder. Now, if they were to respond to Elder summon with one of those, it doesn't remove your additional normal summon. But if they were to already have skill drain face up and then you normal summon Elder, no, you don't get your extra normal summon. So a little finicky with the rulings, but effectively, unless they have skill drain, no other card can stop you from getting that normal summon. That's the idea. One of Flag, one of Corridor, and one of Protoss. These cards are, so the Flag is of course a mandatory part of your end board, right? Because this searches for one of these two. These two are effectively just like mini boss monsters. So Protoss, well, not even many to be honest. Protoss essentially picks an attribute, and that attribute cannot be played until the end of the following turn. So normally you're going to declare either Fire to counter Tempai, Snake Eye, Fire King, Infernoble, Infernoid, again, whatever the fuck plays Fire, right? Or you're going to pick Dark, which stops Bestials, which stops Dragon Link, which also kind of stops Snake Eye, because they like to play a few Dark Link monsters, as well as Diabell Star herself. So it kind of still impacts Snake Eyes a little bit. So Dark is an interesting one to call, because there's not as many decks right now that outwardly just are overly 100% reliant on Dark, which is a bit of a change, right? Because they always were. Rescue is one I forgot to mention before. But a Dark hit on Protoss usually impacts every deck to some extent. So for example, if a deck's playing the Horus cards, well, they can't summon their Imset, or they can't summon Dark the Dark Charmer, they can't summon Access Code Talker, whatever, right? So normally, so a dark lock on Protoss stops a smaller number of relevant decks completely, but has a larger general sort of hit radius. It'll hit every deck to some extent, except for Tempai. And Tempai is kind of the big bad right now, which is why the Fire Call is usually better. Because even if your opponent's not playing a Fire deck, the likelihood that they are playing a Fire deck definitely makes it worth calling nonetheless. So that's the thought process behind Protoss. Corridor just goes into Colossus. And Colossus is, so the safer play is just to go Colossus, because you can guarantee value out of that. Because a lot of decks still really struggle into Colossus, even the likes of Tempai, right? Their Field Spell and their Kaiman no longer do anything. That means Pydra is no longer a starter, because Pydra can't search the deck either. The only starter they effectively have is Chundra, and even that only gets them so far. So Colossus definitely hurts basically every deck you can play into, even the likes of Tempai. It doesn't hurt them as much as it would hurt other decks, but it's definitely a pretty swift impact, I would say. It's not a small impact it would have in the Tempai matchup. We've got, where did I get cut off? Okay, we got Wen and Apelio, again, just one-ofs because you're using them. Again, you can only special summon each Ritual Beast monster once per turn, so you need to have a certain number of different names. And if you're going to play different names, you might as well play ones you can maximize on. So Wen's effect to bring back a banished Ritual Beast is actually pretty good. It's part of your core combo. But she's mainly here as a one-of just because you need different names as much as possible. Apelio for the same thing. Apelio is also more useful than some of the other Ritual Beasts because it's a level 4. So most of the other ones are like sort of level 3s. Pedalfin's a level 4. So I mean, I guess you could play Pedalfin instead if you wanted to, but this card being a Pyro and the Fusion being a Pyro, you would also have to tag out Ulti Pelio for the Pedalfin Fusion, which I forget. Ulti Pedalfin. So you could technically play Pedalfin instead, or in addition to, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Apelio is the one we're playing. 3 Canahawk because it is a 1-card starter. 3 Rempengu, technically also a 1-card starter in this deck. There are certain Garnets you can play to make that 1-card combo stronger that we're not playing because, again, when you're playing a 42-card deck, especially one like this that doesn't have a ton of 1-card starters, you need to reduce the number of Garnets as much as you possibly can. So I didn't want to play the additional Garnets for the Rempengu combo because even by himself, he's still somewhat decent. But more importantly, if you combine Rempengu with any other of your extenders, then the combo you can do virtually is identical to the Canahawk one. So, you know, it's sort of picking your battles, right? Sort of getting in and getting your wins where you can get them safely. So the Rempengu, we're not playing all those additional Garnets for it. It is still technically a somewhat good 1-card starter, but it plus any of your extenders is pretty much GG's. We got Winda, almost only here for her name, basically. Again, as a Spiritual Beast tamer, she is very unique in that way, sharing that trait only with the brand new card, the Spiritual Beast tamer Laura. Very, very interesting. So this card almost entirely here for her name. That's the name containing both Spiritual Beast tamer gives her a ton of versatility when it comes to enabling your Ulti Canahawk lines. And in terms that's it for monsters. Now we got Inheritance, which allows you to reveal a Ritual Beast monster, to add a Ritual Beast of a different type from deck to hand, and then you discard a card. So you'll notice your Ritual Beasts are mostly different types. All of the tamers are psychic, whereas the beasts are different types. So usually if you reveal a tamer, you're just going to be grabbing Canahawk anyways. But if you were to reveal any other Ritual Beast, these guys are all different types as well. So it becomes effectively reveal any Ritual Beast, grab Canahawk is effectively the vibe. If you have Canahawk, reveal a Canahawk to grab, normally Elder or Lara. So it is basically, it's not a totally free search because you do need a Ritual Beast in hand, which is why we're playing so many. It's not the only reason we're playing so many, but we are playing a lot, so it works out. It also provides a small attack buff, and if 2 or more monsters are special summoned to your field at the same time, you can target a monster in the field and change its battle position, which is a really, I guess, unique way of them trying to fix the fact that your ultis always summon back in defense. Maybe they want you to be able to put more offensive pressure on. Almost never comes up. I guess maybe if you were to summon back the Spiritual Beast Apelio off of like the ulti Apelio for additional damage, maybe. That's not a terrible play. Double E-Telly, because all of your tamers are psychics, and you're playing Ghost Ogre, which is a fantastic interruption, so it serves as an extender or it serves as interruption, both of which are awesome. And finally Steeds, which will pop monsters your opponent controls up to the number of Ritual Beast monsters that you control. Non-targeting destruction, by the way, which is solid. So this normally pops 1 or 2 cards, which is nice. They don't have to be Ritual Beasts with different names, which again doesn't come up very often, but it is worth noting that it has less restrictions than many other similar trap cards of its type. So very, very handy card. Ultimately a very important part of your end board, and definitely worth playing as a one-of. Into the extra deck, we have the one of Ulti Apelio. It's an okay actual monster. It's primarily here for its typing, being a Pyro monster. So the way Rempengu works is you need to be able to banish a Ritual Beast monster from your extra deck to mill a Ritual Beast of the relevant type. We are playing the Apelios, which is a Pyro, so we need a Pyro to banish, which is the Ulti Apelio. You'll notice a trend. We're playing the Ulti Canahawk. We are playing this card at 2. You can absolutely get away with 1. And the danger with playing this card at 1 is that if your opponent is intelligent and has a well-timed imperm, it can shut your whole turn down if you don't have another one to go into. So we're playing 2 primarily as a method of playing around interruption. Same with the Ulti Drago. You again can play this card at 1. At 1, you're really only using it as a combo piece. because you do use it as part of your primary combo to ensure you have a sufficient number of different banished names for your Ulti-Canohawk plays. The reason we're playing it at 2 is because not only has the additional body for turn 3 going for lethal been very useful, I mean, that is honestly mostly it. Just the utility of being able to banish 2 of your ritual beasts from your graveyard is incredible on the clapback on turn 3. Whenever you're going for lethal, it's very useful because, again, the 2400 is nice. It's an ulti beast, which enables an ulti Gaia Pelio play very easily, which is also a very cool separate thing that this card enables. Again, making sure you've got appropriately banished names, triggering Lara from grave if you already have a Lara in grave to get an additional ritual beast onto the field. And there's a whole bunch of things that this card existing does for your deck, and it can also even return itself to target a banished ritual beast and summon it to the field, which is kind of nice. So everything about this card is nice. While you don't technically need to play it at 2, I feel like the utility that it brings to the deck definitely mandates a second copy for turn 3. Absolutely. Colossus, just part of our Nemesis M board. Ulti Gaia Pelio is unironically kind of the biggest and baddest boss in the deck, but it very rarely gets summoned. It is very awkward to summon, and effectively it essentially just gets an Omni Negate. So when a spell trap is activated or a monster effect is activated, banish a ritual beast card from hand, negate the activation and destroy it. So number 1, it banishes from hand, which isn't very good, and it's a lot of resources to give up for 1 Omni Negate. Now, in a lot of circumstances, you can do it, and a lot of the time it's even worth it, to be honest, but it's not something you're going to be doing very often. The main reason we're playing it is because it's Psychic, which allows you to banish it off of your Mpingu to mill any Psychic monster, primarily Winda. You can also banish Ulti Raritari, but you saw how we were going through 2 copies of Ulti Raritari, which I guess we'll talk about now. So we're also playing 2 copies of the Ulti Raritari because it is, like I said, an integral part of your turn 1 M board. But again, you saw in the gameplay being able to go on to Raritari on the clapback on turn 3 is very important. It's just, you kind of, the way this deck works, your turn 3 play is just kind of doing your turn 1 play again. And just hoping that your opponent hasn't managed to set up a board through your board that is so daunting that it doesn't work. A lot of your summoning materials, conditions, and situations are flexible enough to the point where you're very seldom going to be locked down and capable of making no plays. A lot of the deck is very self-sufficient, and again, because you're managing your resources so tightly, your cards are normally going to be where you need them to be at the time you need them to be there, which is very important and not something every deck can do. A lot of decks honestly just kind of have to go through the motions and click their buttons and whatever happens, happens, right? Whereas with Ritual Beast, every movement of a card is very specific and predetermined, and you can come back from quite a lot. So normally, because your deck is so resource management intensive, that comes with the benefit of your resources being well managed and always being where you need them to be. And because of that, the sort of repeating your Ritual Beast plays on turn 3 is very straightforward. It becomes a lot easier when you don't have to worry about all these crazy loops and getting cards from specific places. Which means that assuming your opponent isn't able to set up a full power board through your board, which, like I said, is sort of usually between 4 to 6 interruptions, unless you open the nuts, in which case it can be even more. I believe in the first game we had, what, 1 off the trap card, 1 off the Raritari, 3 off of Apo, and 2 off of SP. So what? And then the Protoss Floodgate. So there's 8, right? So if you open any level of decent hand, you can have between 4 to 8 interruptions very easily. Tough for most decks to play through. So even if they do manage to play through it and break your board, very seldom on the other side of that are they going to have enough to keep down your deck and stomp you from just absolutely wrecking their shit. So that's why we're sort of doubling up on a lot of these cards. Not only because you want to have multiple copies in case shit goes wrong, but also because in turn 3, fuck it, you just want to use them again. They're that good. And then the Ulti Falcos is, we're playing this card at 1. You can recycle it very easily. Realistically, this isn't one that you're going to use past turn 1 because this card's job is generating resources. Once you've kind of got all your resources in the right places, it's not that important anymore. So you would only really run this at 1. I can see a world where you want to run 2 though. Don't get me wrong, you can definitely run 2 of this, and the second one will come up for sure. But it's not the toughest thing in the world to recycle, so I'm not overly worried about playing 2 of it. IP, SP, and Apo, all just generic Link monster, boss monsters. They both come up, they all come up quite a lot. You're going to end most of your boards with a Masquerena. It's only really a question of how many free bodies do you have on board as to whether or not you're going to use an Apo over an SP, as well as the particulars of the matchup that you're in at that time, right? Is your opposing deck, are you playing against Labyrinth? In which case, why the fuck would you go Apo, right? Are you playing in the Tenpai? Well, in the Tenpai, SP is going to be really good because it can remove the field spell. Stuff like that. So the specific one that you choose depends on your matchup and how many monsters you have available to you. Again, there's a big difference between a 24 and a 3200 Apo, right? That extra 1 monster to get is huge, right? That's the difference between them being able to play for your board and them not being able to play for your board. So yeah, just sort of do whatever you want there. I like these guys. Technically, you don't need them, but it's up to you. Infernal Banshee, of course, we need for our Nemesis plays, and Baguska, because Maxi is a card, and your deck can put up 2 level 4s like it's nobody's business, so why wouldn't you play Baguska, right? It's not like you're afraid of playing Floodgates in this deck, right? So why not just fucking commit to the big, get 1 more? And that's the whole deck list. Now, in terms of considerations, number 1, first and foremost, what many players have done is they've dropped Corridor, and they've dropped Colossus. I can see where they're coming from. I do get it. It's not something you're going to be searching off a flag a lot. And in certain situations where you have like an exceptionally bad hand, having the Corridor hand can actually be a bad thing. However, I think those situations are so few and far between that I'm not overly worried about it. And if I were to open up Nemesis Corridor, there's a 99% chance I'm going to be able to banish a card, which means that my Colossus should be live. I should be able to go into a Colossus very easily. So if I open up with my Corridor, or if I open up with Protos, it means that my Fly can still search something useful, or at the very least, I'm getting an additional piece onto my end board. And it's not just like, oh, an extra negate. We're talking about Thunder Dragon Colossus here. Like, this card single-handedly ends a lot of decks, right? How is Dragon Link playing through Colossus, right? How is, again, this card hits Tenpai pretty hard. It kind of hurts Rescueus. I don't know why I'm coming back to Rescueus so much. It kind of hurts Rescueus. It disables a lot of Snake Eye plays. It disables Fire Kings just outright, because if they can't go into their field spell, if they can't use the Ponix to search for the field spell, then they can't play the Fire King engine at all. So there's a lot of situations where Colossus really sort of squeezes down the number of possible plays your opponent can make, and then you're squeezing that down and forcing this now reduced version of their capabilities to play through 5, 6, 7 interruptions. So Colossus big on your end board really is a tremendous difference. You can take it out. Many players are taking it out, and I can absolutely see why they are. I don't think that's a big enough reason. I think Colossus is just too good. I really do. Secondly is bodies. So sometimes when it comes to your combos, you can do even more if you just had a couple more names. And some of these names aren't terrible. So these Ritual Beast Tamers, the Pendulum ones, are okay. You're not going to be using them really as Pendulum, right? You're not going to Pendulum summon. I mean, I guess you could if you're really dedicated enough. But no. So this guy, when normal summoner, this one is the better of the two from what I can remember. When it's normal or pendulum summon, you can target a Ritual Beast monster in your graveyard, special summon it but destroy during the MVs. Basically just like a Lara with a different name, which is fine. So, and then you've also got this one, which when normal or pendulum summon, you can add a face-up Zephyr monster from your extra deck to your hand, except this, which is garbage, right? So this one's useless. This one is actually decent and does come up in certain combo lines that we're just not using in this deck. So you can play this, and if you're going to play the additional Tamer, you're going to want an additional beast, which would be the Petalfin. It is not inherently a bad idea to play these cards, right? So more beast names and more Tamer names means that effectively you're expanding the maximum ceiling of your Canohawk. You've got a whole extra loop that you can do now, which is a big deal. You will likely then, if you're going to be doing that, want to play the cards that make playing an additional loop actually worth it. So some people will play Ambush. This is a bit of an older card, probably not too relevant anymore. A lot of people are playing Ritual Beast Bond, which allows you to banish 2 Ritual Beasts to special summon a Ritual Beast monster for your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Pretty good card, especially if you want to go into the... So the only thing about the ulti Gaia is it doesn't get its effect whenever you summon it that way, so you're usually going to be going into something else. Which kind of sucks because you're usually not going to get a ton out of it, but it is an extra name. And what does an extra name mean? An extra name means extra pops off of states. So there's likely not only additional basic interruption it provides like that and additional resources, there's likely a lot of combo lines that they enable and that we're not able to play in this version of it because we're not playing all of these additional cards. My only concern when it comes to those versions that are playing these extra cards is that, again, these are examples of cards that don't really do a lot by themselves, and that's not really what the deck is after right now. We have more than enough extenders, and we have no real need to heighten the ceiling of our Canohawk, our ulti Canohawk anymore, because, again, we're looking at boards of 8+ interruptions, where we're talking potentially 1 or 2 major floodgates. We don't need more. What we need more of is consistency. So I don't think personally that playing these additional garnets are worth it. However, if you really wanted to test the boundaries of what Ritual Beast can do, or maybe you just want to fuck around and find out, you can definitely play these extra cards. They're not inherently bad to play. We just don't need them. And that's basically the summary of my thoughts on the deck. I appreciate that this little breakdown was a little bit longer than what I normally do, but I feel like I had a lot to talk about on this deck because it's a lot of fucking fun, and I really do hope that somebody watching this picks this deck up and has a good time, because I certainly did. It felt like I said, peak Yu-Gi-Oh! You go back and watch the live stream, so many games we completely just fuck up. And it's okay because we learn something from it, and so many games where we play so well that we just feel on top of the world, and like there's no feeling like it. Like playing this felt like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For the first time again, which was a very refreshing change of pace. I really enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoy it as well. So that's basically everything from me. If you got this far into the video, first and foremost, thanks for listening to me ramble on for like 30 minutes. It is currently almost midnight, and your boy likes to talk. What can I say? So I appreciate you listening to me. If you got this far into the video, let me know in the comments. I want you to comment whatever the fuck this says, Zephram Piliga. If you got to the end of the video, comment that to let me know you got here. But do it subtly, right? Don't make it obvious that that's why you're commenting it. And then, of course, like and subscribe to catch more videos as they come out. And you can follow us on Twitch to catch our live streams. That's where we're going to be live streaming from here on out. Again, I'm not live streaming a ton because I have, for those interested, a little bit of CG lore towards the end of the video. I am currently restarting my studies. I'm doing a degree into computing and IT, which is taking up a lot of my time. So I don't have as much time for content creation as I used to, but it is all going to a good cause. So I'm happy enough with that. So we're not going to be streaming or making videos as often. I'm sure people have noticed that things are slowing down. It is what it is, right? I mean, life is more important. So I'm going to keep doing that. But hey, maybe it'll work out. Like, subscribe. I'll stop bent your ear, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.